tracking down criminals wanted abroad.
You're under arrest on a European arrest warrant for an offence of human trafficking.
And I'll be finding out how police are cracking down on smugglers using small planes like this one to dodge the law.
You're watching Crimewatch Roadshow. Hello and welcome to Crimewatch Roadshow. As always, we need your help to solve the crimes happening where you live. Also today, the modern-day slaves, exploited and living in squalor.
He would treat us like animals. I would put up with his suffering to help out my family.
And Emma Caldwell's body was found in a wood in South Lanarkshire. 12 years on, a new appeal to find her killer. Today, the team have moved on to Sherburn Airfield in North Yorkshire. Morning, Michelle. What's going on there?
Yes, well, it's a beautiful morning here, actually, and I'm going to be finding out why the police and the National Crime Agency are keeping a very close eye on the many thousands of small airfields, just like this one, across the country. They're increasingly being exploited by criminals bringing in illegal goods, drugs, and even people.
Thanks, Michelle. Look forward to that. First, to Cleckheaton in West Yorkshire, where an elderly woman was subjected to a vicious attack in broad daylight. Sheila and Ian Mess-Kimmon have lived in Cleckheaton for 28 years. At 76 years old, Sheila has always enjoyed her independence, especially when Ian's off with his friends.
Ian bowls on a Monday and Thursday, so usually when he's gone off at lunchtime, I wander down to the shops in Cleckheaton, and I've been doing that for years. I want to lead a simple life, really, nothing exciting. Just wander around the shops, and not very many, then come back up on the Greenway and take the same route when I'm coming back.
The Greenway is a cycle path used by many locals as a shortcut. One afternoon last month, Sheila had been shopping and was walking her usual route home. But this time, she was being watched.
I was just walking down and I heard these footsteps coming behind me, so I just moved to the one side. But somebody touched me on the shoulder.
To her horror, Sheila realised her attacker had a weapon.
I spun round. I just saw him lift the hammer and he hit my shoulder then with the hammer on my head.
Get off! Get off!
Then he looked in the other hand where my bag was, saw my purse on top, and so I grabbed the hammer off him and he just bent down, grabbed my purse out of my bag, set off back up the Greenway, and that was the last I saw of him. That was it. It was over in such a short spell of time. I think if he hadn't have seen my purse, he wouldn't have let go of the hammer. I think he would have hit me again so that he could get my bag. But with seeing the purse, I think actually it saved me from getting a lot harder beating. There's a snicket where you go through into the houses, and blood was pouring out of my face. I just had tissues, everything wet through. I thought, I just have to get home. I just need to get up there and get home.
Sheila was in shock. The hammer had hit an artery in her head. A passerby called an ambulance and she was taken to hospital for a brain scan.
The man to put the stitches in, he just pulled my hair apart like that, and it was blood everywhere, and he just combed it up. I just looked like a punk rocker, all red hair stuck up.
I led a policeman in the car, took me to Leeds General, where she was, and see what a horrendous mess she was in. All covered in blood and everything, yeah. It was quite a shock.
This was a violent attack on a vulnerable person. The violence used was completely unnecessary. At no point were demands made for cash or for any personal items, and she was immediately struck with a weapon which caused serious injury. This happened on a well-known and well-used public area in an afternoon, and the police are appealing for any information to help trace this person involved.
The attack has seriously affected Sheila's confidence, but she's determined to move on with her life.
The biggest problem at the moment is she's not sure what she's going to be like if she goes out on her own. But I'd like to see her having tried to do it.
I shan't go down that path on the Greenway anymore. Forget about that now and just come back up the road. I mean, you've got to get on with your life or else they've won, haven't they, in the end? You've got to carry on and just forget about it if you can. Just put it to the back of your mind. And, I just thought they'd find him so he doesn't do it to anybody else. And hate anybody else to be hit on the head with a hammer, although he hasn't got a hammer now because I stole it from him.
Well, it's really impressive that Sheila actually managed to grab the hammer from her attacker. With me now is DC Chris Roberts from West Yorkshire Police. I mean, Chris, this was a particularly vicious attack, wasn't it?
It was a vicious attack. Fortunately, there haven't been any other incidents similar to this one. The violence used in this incident was completely unnecessary.
Tell us a bit more about where it happened.
It happened on the Greenway in Cleckheaton. It was Monday the 8th of May and it happened at about 2:20 in the afternoon. The Greenway is a very busy area. It's very popular with locals, dog walkers, joggers, runners. There's a little track which leads off the Greenway and it leads down to an estate called Roydwood, and it was on that track where this has happened.
Sheila suffered some nasty injuries from this attack, didn't she?
She did, yeah. She had a serious wound, 2 wounds to her head, which required hospital treatment. She had bruising to her face and to her shoulder as well.
What do we know about the suspect? Because Sheila was actually able to describe him, wasn't she?
She was. Sheila did very well. Considering the split second Sheila had face-to-face with the attacker, she was able to give quite a good description. She describes a white male, between 50 to 60 years old, tall and slim build. He's got unshaven, grey stubble face, and he was wearing a black woolen hat with a long dark coat.
And Chris, you've actually brought the hammer that was used. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is the hammer that Sheila managed to take from him. As you can see, it's a substantial hammer. It's quite heavy as well. It's in the plastic bag due to the chemicals that have been used during the forensic examinations. DNA has been found on the hammer. Unfortunately, it comes back to Sheila.
So today you're looking for any information at all. I mean, thank you very much, Chris. If you do recognise the man from that EFIT, make sure you get in touch with us. The numbers will be on your screen throughout the programme, and we're going to be standing by for your calls. Ralph.
Thanks, Michelle. Next, do you recognise any of today's criminals caught on CCTV? Just so you know, a couple of these are pretty serious. A woman is returning home late on a Friday night, completely unaware she's being followed. As she parks in her driveway, a group of men suddenly rush towards her. Terrified, she sounds her horn for help. Her husband runs out from the house and tries to fight off the robbers, but he's easily outnumbered. They struggle with his wife, eventually grabbing her handbag before they make a run for it. These low-life thugs took around £3,000 in cash and the woman's bank cards, but they also left her badly shaken. Police want to speak to this man, who they believe was caught on camera using the stolen cards the next day. If you know who they are, give us their names. It's the early hours of the morning, but the party is still going strong in this pub in Wolverhampton. A group of colleagues are out celebrating and minding their own business, but one unruly punter in the bobble hat is about to ruin the night out. A man is standing with his co-workers, getting ready to leave, when out of nowhere, the bloke storms over and swings for him, punching him in the eye. The attacker is dragged off, leaving the victim in pain on the floor. He was later taken to hospital, where he had to have surgery for a fractured eye socket. Do you know who this brutish bloke is? A house in Norfolk, but these three don't live here. They've broken in and seem to be making themselves quite at home. This one spots something he likes, and it's swiped. Hunting through the house upstairs and down, what they didn't count on was the homeowner turning up. He sounds his horn to scare them off. Seems to do the job quite nicely. Can you name this thieving trio? Well, if you recognise any of that lot, get on the phone now. You can call for free on 08000 468 999, or you can text us on 63399. Text CW space and then your message. Text will be charged at your standard message rate, or send us an email. The address is cwr at bbc.co.uk.
Now, small airfields like this can often be a gateway for criminals smuggling things into the country. DC Pete Wakefield is with me now. Now, part of your job is to keep a very, very close eye on airfields like this, isn't it?
It is, yes. I'm a member of the Special Branch Ports Intelligence Unit. And just as an example, in North Yorkshire alone, we have just over 100 small airfields, just as like the one that we're here today at.
And so we've set up a kind of training exercise. A plane landed here earlier. The officers have no idea where the plane has come from or who's on board, but we can see the officers being briefed at the moment. So what are they being told?
OK, well, to support Project Pegasus, which is a mechanism to report for the public suspicious activity to do with flying movements, today is an exercise based on a report from the member of the public on a 101 phone call suggesting that there's a low-level flying aircraft possibly come from the continent that has landed here today. So they're now being tasked and told to speak to the occupants and just to possibly carry out a search and find out whether anything untoward has happened.
I see, well, we can see the pilot coming out with another person. So what will our officers be trained to do in this situation?
Well, the first issue, now that it's a safe scene, is to find out where's the aircraft come from and who are the people on board. So they'll be looking at things like have they got passports, documentation, and just to see what they've got, really.
And talking about documentation, I mean, what kind of documentation do you need to have to fly in airfields like this?
Well, if it's come from the continent, I mean, it would be reasonable, and they should have passports at the very least. But believe it or not, for an internal flight, actually, you don't need anything. So it's like using a car going from A to B. So yeah, that's what they're doing now, speaking to the people to see who they are.
Thank you very much. And interestingly, another part, an important part of this investigation, is the dog searches. I'm joined now by Noel Hancock, who's the dog handler for this lovely dog Teal here. So we're going to head over to the scene, aren't we, Noel? Because Teal's going to carry out a search. What exactly is she trained to look for?
She's trained for 3 items: for drugs, cash, and she's a firearms detection dog.
Fantastic. Well, let's set her off, and you can talk me through exactly what she'll be sniffing out, because it's the power of scent that she uses, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
Off she goes. So straight away she's sniffing all the areas to try and detect something. Bless her. She's heading into the back hatch here. Oh, look. Okay, well, she's identified something. If we can look very close, she's not moving, is she? Oh, bit of a smile to the camera there. And if we look closely, it looks like she's found a gun and also some cash in there.
That's what it looks like, yes.
So that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
But we have been led to believe by some previous intelligence there were traces of drugs in this plane as well. So, Rav, this investigation is far from over. Make sure you join us later to see what happens next.
Thanks, Michelle. So clever, aren't they? Also, coming up this morning. As festival season begins, we'll have some tips to stop music fans getting ripped off. And can you name and shame this thug who viciously attacked 2 passers-by on a Christmas night out? But first, it's been 12 years since Emma Caldwell's body was discovered in a wooded area near Roberton in South Lanarkshire. The identity of the 27-year-old killer remains a mystery. This morning, police and Emma's family are making a new appeal to Crimewatch Roadshow viewers to help them finally solve this case.
We just had a great time. We just loved each other so much. She meant an awful lot to me.
It's something no mother should have to deal with, the murder of a child. For Margaret Caldwell, the pain of losing her daughter Emma 12 years ago has been made worse by the fact her killer has never been caught.
I need this person to be found. I need him to tell me why he would take my daughter's life from her and leave the whole family too. We miss her so much. We miss her every day.
On the 4th of April 2005, shortly before 11 p.m, Emma left the hostel where she was living in the centre of Glasgow. She was captured on CCTV as she walked along Inglefield Street. It was the last time she was seen alive. A month later, Emma's body was found in woods near Roberton, 40 miles outside the city.
Going to Roberton to where the body was found was just an unbelievable experience. You've got these emotions going on in your mind about, oh, how terrified must she have been? You know, what ordeal did she go through before this process? And your mind is just flooded with all that kind of stuff.
At the time of her death, Emma was involved in prostitution. In April this year, police conducted a new search of the woods near Roberton, and they've issued a fresh appeal to anyone involved in prostitution in Glasgow at the time who may have been taken to the woods by a client to get in touch.
Please help us as a family. Someone please come forward. That's all we need. You're out there. You're there. You know this man is a danger to other women. He must be found. He must be brought to justice. He must be brought to justice for Emma.
Well, I'm now joined in the studio by Detective Superintendent David McLaren from Police Scotland. Good morning. This really is a tragic case, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking. You can see from the video there, Emma's death has had a massive impact on our family, and the fact that it's gone for 12 years now without us finding out who was responsible. They've just not been able to get any closure following her death.
Yeah, I mean, we saw just how desperate they are for answers. So where are you at the moment? What's the investigation like for you?
Yeah, so I've been reinvestigating the case for 2 years now. Clearly you saw from the video there as well, the last sighting of Emma was just before 11 p.m. on the 4th of April 2005. Emma's body was found over a month later down in Roberton, and the focus of our investigation has been trying to establish who Emma met that night, who she was in contact with. As you would expect, we've been going back to the witnesses from the original case, re-interviewing them, looking for CCTV opportunities, and obviously forensics is a key part of the investigation as well.
Okay, we can actually see a map of the area. For those that aren't familiar with it, Roberton, as we can see here, this is where she was found. It's some distance from Glasgow though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 70 miles actually from Glasgow city centre, and that's the crux of this whole investigation. How did a girl who's living in Glasgow, how did her body end up so far away from the city centre? As I say, 70 miles. We know from our re-investigation that it was unusual for women who were involved in prostitution to go that far from the city. So yeah, quite significant.
It's definitely significant. We've mentioned that she may well have been involved in prostitution. You would also like to hear from other people who were involved in that as well at the same time, because they may have been taken some distance by someone as well, and they could be the people that hold the clues.
Yeah, and that's the whole crux of the appeal today. I'm certain that there are women out there who have been taken to that location or taken excessive miles outside Glasgow whilst they've been involved in prostitution, either back in 2005 or maybe still today. And my appeal today is really a heartfelt plea. You can see the impact that Emma's death has had on our family, and I would ask anybody out there who has any information to please get in touch with us.
Yeah, like you said right at the start, it's the closure the family haven't got. It's absolutely heartbreaking. You are doing everything you can. Someone out there might hold that vital piece of information in this. Those people you just urge to get in touch with you today. David, thank you very much for coming in. As David says, if you have any information that could help this case, please do get in touch. Our details are on the screen now. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. I'm going to give you their number now. It's 0800 555 111. Michelle.
Now, we've heard how small airfields like this one are often targeted by smugglers of all kinds, including people traffickers. They operate across several different countries, disappearing across borders when police get on their tails. Some of them try to hide out in the UK, but as we'll find out in our next film, Yorkshire is no safe haven for crooks on the run. Cities like Leeds, Bradford and Wakefield attract their fair share of foreign offenders on the run. In the last year alone, West Yorkshire Police's extradition unit has arrested around 100 fugitives.
Hello, police!
All of them wanted for offences in other European countries.
Other than the Metropolitan Police, we in West Yorkshire have executed more European arrest warrants than any other force in the country. That's done on purpose, to protect our communities.
Today, PC Dave Lockwood is on the trail of a man wanted for human trafficking. Omar Mahmoudi, an Iranian-born British national, was convicted in the Netherlands and sentenced to 18 months. But he fled to the UK. Police believe he's living in this block of flats in Wakefield. Dave checks to see if anyone's in.
Hello? Female. Can you open the door, please, love? It's the police. Look, I can see you there. You're going to have to open the door, OK? It's the police. If you don't open the door, force will be used. Omar, open the door. It's the police, fella. I'll talk to you once you open the door. OK, Okay, don't be playing silly games, fella. Right, let's go into your living room and have a chat. Come on then. Right, what's your name, please? Confirm your name.
My name is Omar.
And your last name?
Mahmoudi.
Right. Omar, the Netherlands police in Holland have issued a warrant for your arrest relating to an offence that occurred on the 30th of December 2015, where they're saying you've driven a truck through the Netherlands with 5 illegal immigrants on board. So they want you extraditing to go back to the Netherlands.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've booked the ticket. I'll
Right.
be there for India. I will be there on 22nd
Of?
This month.
Right.
Yeah, already I've got the book. I just can show you.
Right. Okay, what we'll do is, because this warrant's been issued, I can't do anything other than arrest you and put you before the court. However, if you've got other information, you can take that with you and show it before the court. So, any medication, anything you need, any evidence you want to take with you, I will be arresting you and we'll be going to the police station.
Yeah, but you don't have to call me there. I will come on my own.
No, you'll be coming with me.
Yeah, I will be coming with you.
Yes.
But you don't have to call me.
Right, well, I'll make that decision depending on how you act in the next 5 minutes. Stay there for me, fella. You're under arrest on a European arrest warrant for an offence of illicit immigration, stroke human trafficking. So you do not have to say anything, but anything you do say may be given in evidence.
I didn't do anything. Anything that they say is wrong.
I didn't do anything. Right, I've noted your reply. It's 12:40. Okay. I know you said you didn't want to be. No, I'm not happy with you. I'm not happy with you. So for that reason, you're going to be handcuffed. Okay. Firstly, you didn't open the door. I asked you to open the door and you didn't, and I've asked you to keep your hands out of your pockets and you haven't. So for that reason, I've never met you before.
Yeah, because
and I'm not taking a chance. Right, we're going now. Yeah, we're keeping those on. I'm not happy.
It's back to the police station, where Mahmoudi spends the night in the cells.
Just a bit further apart.
His case was later heard at Westminster Magistrates Court, and he's now been extradited to the Netherlands to serve out his sentence.
Take care.
Really fascinating work there. Paddy Kerr joins me now from the National Crime Agency, and it's Paddy's job to police these airfields in the north. We saw a case in the film there about people trafficking, and there's 3,500 small airfields in the UK, Paddy. I mean, just how do you keep tabs on them all?
Well, it's not easy, but together with Border Force, police forces, our law enforcement partners, both here and overseas, and more importantly with the public and the private sectors, we collect, we analyse and we disseminate intelligence in relation to organised crime groups abusing the general aviation processes and policies.
How do you guard against that threat?
Well, obviously, with 3,500 airfields, I mean, just in the north of England, we're probably 400 to 500 airfields. We can't have a law enforcement presence at every single airfield, so we are reliant on the public, we are reliant on our partners to give us that intelligence so that we can prioritise the highest end, the highest threat. And then, as I said, through the collection and the analysis of that intelligence, try to be as intelligence-led as we can, and then obviously picking and choosing the types of airfields and the types of criminality that we're going to attack.
Now, there was a major incident in a small airfield not far from here, not so long ago, wasn't there?
There was. Brayton Airfield, that has recently gone to trial, and 3 people have been convicted in relation to that airfield. Brayton is only 10-15 miles away from here. There was a general aviation pilot, a guy by the name of Andrew Wright. He had a nickname of Biggles. He was responsible for bringing in 34 kilos of cocaine into North Yorkshire, and together with his 2 associates from London, they received 66 years imprisonment.
Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that these smuggling activities are a real problem.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, the access and the availability of the aeroplanes is quite key. But I would like to make an appeal. I'll take the opportunity to make the appeal in relation to an investigation that the National Crime Agency are conducting in relation to 7 kilos of cocaine, which was recovered from a briefcase within a light aircraft at Bagby Airfield in October of 2015. The pilot of that aircraft was arrested, but we are seeking a gentleman by the name of Jason Stephen Waterman, who's in his early 30s, from the North London area. We believe he frequents boxing clubs and gyms in the North West London, Watford area, and the National Crime Agency would very much like to speak to Mr Waterman in connection with that seizure of cocaine.
Paddy, thanks very much. Well, as you heard, we're appealing for any information on this case, so if you do recognise this man, please get in touch with us, Raf.
Thanks, Michelle. Now, if you're a music lover, you'll know that Glastonbury's about to start, and that means the beginning of this year's summer festival season. Now, live music events aren't cheap, with the average festival ticket costing around £200. Not surprising then that fraudsters want to get their hands on some of that cash. Well, DI Mick Dodge from the City of London Police is here again. Last week you were telling us about holiday fraud, today it's ticket fraud. And Darren Griffin is here too, who sadly fell victim to a festival ticket scam. Good morning to you both. Darren, if I start with you, what happened then?
We were buying tickets for our daughter for a festival called Boomtown, which is a music festival that takes place near Winchester every year. We'd only have 3 days to go, so the official website sold out. Scoured the internet, found them on a website called Gumtree, local seller, 2 tickets, face value price. So we did the deal, paid online, bank transfer. The e-tickets came through, and of course when you turned up at the festival, they'd been presented a number of times fraudulently, and they weren't valid.
You handed over a lot of cash for this as well,
yeah,
didn't you?
£300 it cost.
Yeah, so it's not cheap. So, what did you feel when you realised that obviously that this was a scam?
Just sick. I thought I knew all the scams. I thought I'd taken the precautions necessary to ensure it was a valid ticket. And of course, to realise you lost £300 was just, you know.
Yeah. And even the fact that it was an e-ticket, so many genuine things are e-tickets these days. So
Indeed,
even alarm bells.
Yeah, no way of verifying if you turn up at the event on the day.
Oh dear. Okay. Mick, unfortunately, this is a typical experience, isn't it?
Yeah, sadly, it's very common. Over the last 3 years, 21,000 people have fallen victim to ticket frauds, and that equates to about £17 million. Criminals will target sold-out events right in the run-up to in the lead-up when the demand is high. They'll use fake websites, social media profiles, or like in your case, Darren, they'll sell on classified ad sites like Gumtree.
Now, to show the scale of this, you actually came up with an experiment yourself, didn't you? We actually set up a fraudulent website to show people how easy it would be to pass on their money.
Yeah, absolutely. So working with Action Fraud, the City of London Police set up a website called Surfed Arts, and this is a fake ticket website. And we advertised for sale some sold-out concerts like Adele or Coldplay and Bruno Mars, and then marketed it on Facebook and targeted it towards the areas that the gigs were being held in. And what we found was 1,500 people went onto the website and progressed all the way through up to the point where they were trying to buy tickets off us.
And is that the point when you actually say, well, look, here we go, we can see it now. If this had been a real fraudster's website, you would have lost your money by now. And that's the message they were greeted with.
Absolutely. They didn't get their tickets, sadly, but crucially, they didn't lose any money. What they did get was some really sound crime prevention advice to help protect themselves.
Well, we just heard that it was £300 that you passed with, and there's 1,500 people that could have done the same. So a massive amount of money if it was a fraudulent website. Great advice. Please tell me where you got the name from, because I do love this.
It's an anagram of fraudsters, so...
Surfed Arts fraudsters, brilliant. So the clues were there. OK, so what can people do then to protect themselves?
So I would say always try and buy tickets from the official box office, from official ticket agents or from reputable sellers. Are they members of STAR, which is an industry body? Never ever respond to unsolicited emails and never pay by direct bank transfer. You want to always be using a credit card or a debit card, and when you put any information into the internet, look for the padlock in the address bar.
That should just be in the top corner,
just
shouldn't
in
it?
the top corner, yeah. That tells you that the transaction's secure.
OK, some great advice there, Mick, thank you. You're going to be back later in the series with more advice about scams. And Darren, unfortunately, it was too late for you, but thank you for sharing your story. You'll certainly be helping other people to prevent them falling foul of this. So thank you both for coming in. There is, as Mick says, lots more advice on the Action Fraud website. But Michelle, let's go back to you.
Thanks, Rav. Next, Humberside Police are appealing for your help to identify a man who assaulted at least 2 men in the seaside town of Bridlington just before Christmas. PC Jason Scotter is here with me now. Now, Jason, there were 2 incidents. Talk us through where they were, what happened.
Yes, both incidents happened on Sunday the 18th of December on Cliff Street in Bridlington around 4:15 a.m. The gentleman was assaulted there. The offender then walked up towards the takeaway tasties, and from that incident he then crossed over the street and walked back away from the seafront towards Cross Street.
So let's talk about the first attack, exactly what happened there.
With the first attack, the male was walking along Cliff Street when the offender said something. He turned around to actually see what he said, and with that the offender punched him very hard to his jaw.
And the second incident, that was caught on CCTV, wasn't it?
That's right. The male comes out of the Tasties takeaway, and with that, he headbutts the victim twice to the face, extremely hard, and then follows in with a volley of punches, knocking the male unconscious onto the floor.
I mean, this is just a horrible attack. He suffered serious injuries.
That's right. The first male suffered from a broken jaw, where he had to have plates and stitches put inside his mouth. He also cracked his elbow and had quite a bit of bruising with a lot of pain. The second male, he was knocked unconscious and obviously had concussion, and he's suffering with pain to his head and shoulders.
I mean, it's just awful, but thankfully you have got some clear footage of the attacker.
Yeah, the footage inside the takeaway shows the male. I mean, he's 5'6" tall, he's got light brown short hair, and he was wearing a white shirt. There was also a lady in a red dress that was there and outside, and we'd love to speak to her in relation to this incident.
Do we think this attacker was a local person or someone from outside the area?
No, we believe that the person is from out of the area. We've done quite a bit of research. We've also done a couple of Facebook appeals, and with it being a tight-knit community, we've been sort of like, had not the information that we were believing we'd get, so we do believe it's somebody from out of town.
And you're appealing for any information on this
right.
attacker today, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, hopefully you can help. If you do recognise this man, you know what to do. Please get in touch with us using the numbers on the screen. We'll be standing by for your calls all day. Ralph.
Yeah, let's hope someone can name him. Now it's a time for a look at today's wanted faces, and we'll start with 33-year-old Altin Domi. He was arrested by officers from Devon and Cornwall Police in connection with the supply of Class A drugs. He was released on police bail but has failed to return for further questioning. Domi's from Albania and it's thought he could be working at car washes in London. Next today is Sirazul Islam. He was arrested in connection with a sexual assault on a woman and released on bail, but he's failed to return for further questioning. Originally from Bangladesh, 31-year-old Islam now has links to Leicester, London, Bristol and Hastings. This here is 43-year-old Alan Campbell. He was jailed for 3.5 years for burglary and theft offences and released on licence. He's failed to stick to the conditions of his release though, and is now wanted back in prison. He has a number of tattoos, including a Tasmanian devil on his chest and a black panther on his back. He has links to West Yorkshire, Lincolnshire and Oxfordshire. And finally for today, do you recognise Cecil George Courtier? Although you may know him as Thomas or George Enright, Patrick, Paul or Thomas Mullins, or even John Purcell. Detectives from the Met Police would like to speak to him in connection to numerous burglaries at businesses and shops across London. The 68-year-old may also be wearing glasses, as in this picture. As well as London, he has links to Devon, Salford and Manchester. And interestingly, he has no upper teeth. If you know where any of these faces are, make sure you get in touch using the numbers on screen. Michelle.
Now, earlier we saw how Teal the dog searched a plane that had just landed here at Sherburn Airfield in North Yorkshire. We didn't know where the plane had come from or who was on board. And Teal managed to identify some cash on the plane, as well as a gun. I'm joined again by Noel Hancock, Teal's dog handler. We've also got another dog now, Billy, and Lynn Fletcher. Lynn is Billy's handler. So that was the start of the investigation, but we did also have some intelligence that were traces of drugs on the plane, but we didn't actually find them. So what do we think had happened?
Basically, what we think's happened is that whilst the plane was circling the airfield or flying low over the airfield, some sort of package has been discarded somewhere on the grassy area within the confines of the airfield. So what our intention now is to set up Billy to do an area search, see if we can locate the package that's been discarded.
OK, well, let's set Billy off and we'll see him in action. Thank you. So talk me through how this is going to happen, because again, it's similar to what Teal was doing earlier, isn't it?
Yeah, but basically what she'll do is she'll set him up from a fixed start. She'll send him on his way, and what he'll do, he'll work on, again, air scent, and he'll work his way into a package or anything that contains either drugs, cash or a firearm. So hopefully, at the end of it, we'll get a result.
Fingers crossed. He's watching Lynn there, isn't he, ready for his cue? So she's about to set him off, isn't she?
That's correct, yeah.
Off he goes.
So he'll just work the area. What Lynn will do, Lynn will just push him around different cornering off the area. But obviously he's onto something now.
And they cover a fair distance, don't they?
They are a great asset when it comes to open area searching. Yeah. They can do so much quicker and so much less manpower intensive.
Now, Billy is actually stuck to something there. Lynn's heading over. Oh, no, he's gone somewhere else now.
Oh, what he's doing, he's just working his way back. He's obviously found something now. You can see by his demeanour what he's doing. It was what we work for is what we call the freeze. Right. That the dog will just stay and stare at the object that it's found.
So it looks like he's actually identified the package there.
That looks like exactly what he's done. And there he's had his reward.
So we know Lynn's put a hand up. Well, let's actually see exactly what did happen earlier, because the plane came over and dropped off the drugs package exactly as you said. Fantastic, successful mission. Noel, thank you very much. Thanks to Teal and obviously Lynn and Billy. It looks like he's having a great time now.
It's all one big game for them.
One big game. Thank you very much. Now, as we heard earlier, as well as drugs, people trafficking is also an increasing problem. Some people move to the UK and find out they're having a very, very different life to what they originally expected.
Modern slavery is a hidden problem on a massive scale.
It's happening in car washes, nail bars and on farms. And spotting the signs of exploitation is a priority for police. On this farm near Newport in South Wales, officers rescued Daryl Sinister, a man with learning difficulties who'd been kept as a slave for 13 years and forced to live in appalling conditions. The man responsible, David Daniel Doran, was jailed for 4.5 years. In South Yorkshire, reported cases of exploitation rose 5-fold last year.
It can involve forced labour, it can involve domestic servitude, sexual exploitation. People don't know what the signs and indicators are, or if they do, they might not see them because it's not happening in front of you and it's not there out on the street. So it can happen to anyone.
To tackle this growing problem, South Yorkshire Police has a dedicated anti-slavery unit. Detective Sergeant Nicola Leach is briefing the team for this morning's operation.
Intelligence indicates that hand car washers are often places where people are found in exploitative situations. We're going to gather information about each identified worker via the use of safeguarding questionnaires. All workers encountered will be treated as potential victims of human trafficking unless specific intelligence or behaviour suggests otherwise.
Nicola and Donna head to the location. Gaining the trust of potential victims can often be difficult.
So naturally, if you don't know anyone and you don't know who you can turn to, then you're not naturally going to speak out. You're then going to become dependent on the person who might be the person that's exploiting you.
This isn't just a police operation. The team meets with immigration officials, charity workers and interpreters.
The information that the police hold, there's nothing to suggest that anyone is holding any weapons or that anyone's going to be harmed today.
At the car wash, the workers and employers are separated and interviewed.
So at the minute, the teams are just talking to the 3 people who are working here to try and do the safeguarding questionnaires and see what they've got to say.
The gentleman I spoke to was quite happy with the work that he's getting. He's quite forthcoming with the details of what's happening, which usually indicates that things are as they should be. He has his national insurance number and he's in possession of all his documentation and he's quite happy with his conditions at the moment. So it's a good result.
The police are satisfied with the situation at this car wash. But modern slavery is a real problem. When Daniel, not his real name, came to the UK from Eastern Europe, the new life he'd been promised became a nightmare.
When I first came to England, I found such squalor. I slept on the floor for almost 2 months until I managed to put some money together to buy myself a mattress. I wasn't even eating. I would eat once a day to send money back.
As well as poor living conditions, Daniel was exploited by the boss of the car wash where he worked.
My employer held onto my ID card so I couldn't leave. I was working 7 days a week from 7 AM to 7 PM. He would treat us like animals. I would put up with his suffering to help out my family. There was one guy who wanted to get away. He was beaten up very badly. I stayed because of the poverty in my country. I stayed to earn the money to send it back to my daughter. When the police came and I spoke to them, they took me out of there.
Daniel is now receiving help from charities to recover from his ordeal and move on.
When you hear the word slavery, you think it's something that used to happen and it's something in the past, but it's not. The numbers are really quite startling and it's a huge problem. It's happening in the UK and it will be happening in South Yorkshire, and that's why we're here to tackle it.
Yeah, it's a truly shocking problem, and if you've been affected by this issue or you have concerns about anyone who could be a victim of modern slavery, you can call the Salvation Army's confidential helpline. The number is 0300 303 8151. The lines are open 24 hours a day. You may be charged for the calls. Just time for a quick update on your calls, texts and emails. And you may remember this CCTV that we showed you last Thursday of 3 men police want to speak to after a burglary at a house in Hitchin. Well, when you called in, a number of names were given and police say one of those is of particular interest and they're following it up now as we speak. Do keep those calls coming in. Michelle, tell us, where are you going to speak tomorrow?
Well, Ralph, from being high up in the air today, tomorrow we're heading underground into the caves and potholes of North Yorkshire, where cave rescue teams will be helping people who have got into difficulties. I might see if I can get a flight there. See you tomorrow.
Absolutely, why not? For more details about the crimes on today's programme, go to our website. But before we go, here's another look at this morning's wanted faces. If any of them look familiar, pick up the phone and tell us where they are. We're back tomorrow morning, same time. See you then. Bye.
The Fugitive Hunters, tracking down criminals wanted abroad.
You're under arrest on a European arrest warrant for an offence of human trafficking.
And I'll be finding out how police are cracking down on smugglers using small planes like this one to dodge the law.
You're watching Crimewatch Roadshow. Hello and welcome to Crimewatch Roadshow. As always, we need your help to solve the crimes happening where you live. Also today.
The modern-day slaves, exploited and living in squalor.
He would treat us like animals. I would put up with his suffering to help out my family.
And Emma Caldwell's body was found in a wood in South Lanarkshire. 12 years on, a new appeal to find her killer.
Today, the team have moved on to Sherburn Airfield in North Yorkshire. Morning, Michelle. What's going on there?
Yes, well, it's a beautiful morning here, actually, and I'm going to be finding out why the police and the National Crime Agency are keeping a very close eye on the many thousands of small airfields, just like this one, across the country. They're increasingly being exploited by criminals bringing in illegal goods, drugs, and even people.
Thanks, Michelle. Look forward to that. First, to Cleckheaton in West Yorkshire, where an elderly woman was subjected to a vicious attack in broad daylight.
Sheila and Ian Meskimmon have lived in Cleckheaton for 28 years. At 76 years old, Sheila has always enjoyed her independence, especially when Ian's off with his friends.
Seeing bowls on a Monday and Thursday, so usually, and he's gone off at lunchtime, I wander down to the shops in Cleckheaton, and I've been doing that for years. Only lead simple life, really, nothing exciting. Just wander around the shops, there's not very many, then come back up on the Greenway and take the same route when I'm coming back.
The Greenway is a cycle path used by many locals as a shortcut. One afternoon last month, Sheila had been shopping and was walking her usual route home. But this time, she was being watched.
I was just walking down and I heard these footsteps coming behind me, so I just moved to the one side. But somebody touched me on the shoulder.
To her horror, Sheila realised her attacker had a weapon.
I spun round. I just saw him lift the hammer and he hit my shoulder then with the hammer and my head.
Get off! Get off!
Then he looked in my other hand where my bag was, saw my purse on top, and so I grabbed the hammer off him and he just bent down, grabbed my purse out of my bag, set off back up the Greenway, and that was the last I saw of him. That was it. It was over in such a short spell of time. I think if he hadn't have seen my purse, he wouldn't have let go of the hammer. I think he would have hit me again so that he could get my bag, but with seeing the purse, I think actually it saved me from getting a lot harder beating. There's a snicket where you go through into the houses and blood was pouring out of my face. I just had tissues, everything wet through. I thought, I just have to get home. I just need to get up there and get home.
Sheila was in shock. The hammer had hit an artery in her head. A passerby called an ambulance and she was taken to hospital for a brain scan.
The man to put the stitches in, he just pulled my hair apart like that. And it was blood everywhere and he just combed it up. I just looked like a punk rock and her all red hair stuck up.
Well, a lady policeman in the car took me to Leeds General, where she was, and see what a horrendous mess she was in, all covered in blood and everything. Yeah, it was quite a shock.
This was a violent attack on a vulnerable person. The violence used was completely unnecessary. At no point were demands made for cash or for any personal items, and she was immediately struck with a weapon which caused serious injury. This happened on a well-known and well-used public area in an afternoon, and the police are appealing for any information to help trace this person involved.
The attack has seriously affected Sheila's confidence, but she's determined to move on with her life.
The biggest problem at the moment is she's not sure what she's going to be like if she goes out on her own. But I'd like to see her trying to do it.
I shan't go down that path on the Greenway anymore. Forget about that now and just come back up the road. But, I mean, you've got to get on with your life, or else they've won, haven't they, in the end? You've got to carry on and just forget about it if you can. Just put it to the back of your mind. And, I just thought they'd find him so he doesn't do it to anybody else. I hate anybody else to be hit on the head with a hammer, although he hasn't got a hammer now because I stole it from him.
Well, it's really impressive that Sheila actually managed to grab the hammer from her attacker. With me now is DC Chris Roberts from West Yorkshire Police. I mean, Chris, this was a particularly vicious attack, wasn't it?
It was a vicious attack. Fortunately, there haven't been any other incidents similar to this one. The violence used in this incident was completely unnecessary.
Tell us a bit more about where it happened.
It happened on the Greenway in Cleckheaton. It was Monday the 8th of May and it happened at about 2:20 in the afternoon. The Greenway is a very busy area. It's very popular with locals, dog walkers, joggers, runners. There's a little track which leads off the Greenway and it leads down to an estate called Roydwood, and it was on that track where this has happened.
Sheila suffered some nasty injuries from this attack, didn't she?
She did, yeah. She had a serious wound, 2 wounds to her head, which required hospital treatment. She had bruising to her face and to her shoulder as well.
What do we know about the suspect? Because Sheila was actually able to describe him, wasn't she?
She was. Sheila did very well. Considering the split second Sheila had face-to-face with the attacker, she was able to give quite a good description. She describes a white male, between 50 to 60 years old, tall and slim build. He's got unshaven, grey stubble face, and he was wearing a black woolen hat with a long dark coat.
And Chris, you've actually brought the hammer that was used. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is the hammer that Sheila managed to take from him. As you can see, it's a substantial hammer. It's quite heavy as well. It's in the plastic bag due to the chemicals that have been used during the forensic examinations. DNA has been found on the hammer. Unfortunately, it comes back to Sheila.
So today you're looking for any information at all. I mean, thank you very much, Chris. If you do recognise the man from that e-fit, make sure you get in touch with us. The numbers will be on your screen throughout the programme, and we're going to be standing by for your calls. Ralph.
Thanks, Michelle. Next, do you recognise any of today's criminals caught on CCTV? Just so you know, a couple of these are pretty serious.
A woman is returning home late on a Friday night, completely unaware she's being followed. As she parks in her driveway, a group of men suddenly rush towards her. Terrified, she sounds her horn for help. Her husband runs out from the house and tries to fight off the robbers, but he's easily outnumbered. They struggle with his wife, eventually grabbing her handbag before they make a run for it.